Hello felters! In this video I'll show you how to make the haunted eyeball using the craft of needle felting. I'm working with two different felting needles. My purple needle is a little coarse and it's good for shaping the felt, and the silver needle is more fine. It's good for adding details. I'll cue you which needles I'm using with these symbols. My favorite fiber to felt with is carded wool from Harrisville Designs. It comes in a palette of gorgeous colors and it felts up really smooth. I also have a band-aid at hand just in case things get a little stabby, and my work surface is this blue foam pad. I link to all the materials in your video description. I get started by just pulling my felting needles off of the card and stabbing them into my foam so they're ready to go. This white fiber is really big and bulky to work with, so I'm going to strip it down into a little bit smaller piece. The first thing I need to do is roll it into a ball. I'm going to bulk up my eyeball shape with the white fiber. I'm rolling it up as tightly as I can. I'm going to use the felting needle to tack it down a little bit and then layer up some more fiber. You can make it as big as you want. The more fiber you add, the bigger it will be. As I'm adding my last layer of white fiber, I'm really trying to make it smooth on the outside of the eyeball. So I take a second to spread out the fibers and lay them flat against my ball. You can make yours any size, but mine is about the size of an egg. And now I'm felting. I'm using my purple shaping needle and stabbing it into my eyeball. Everywhere that I stab, I can see a little pockmark or a little dent where the needle went in. That shows me that the barbs on the felting needle are grabbing the fibers and matting them together. The process of felting my eyeball takes about 15 minutes. I stab it 4 or 5 times on one side and then rotate the ball a little bit and stab it 4 or 5 more times. Continue rotating the ball often so that you make a sphere. If you never rotated your ball, you would end up with a flat pancake of an eyeball, which might be kind of cool too. After about 5 minutes of felting, I can see that I have a crack on my ball. I want it to look more smooth, so I pull off a little piece of white fiber and lay it onto the ball. Then I'm going to use my silver felting needle to attach that patch of white fiber. You can see that that thin patch of fiber has hidden the crack and it looks more smooth now. My ball is feeling nice and dense, but the outside surface of it still looks kind of lumpy bumpy from where the coarse felting needle has stabbed into the wool. So I'm going to use my silver needle and use shallow pokes over the whole eyeball. If I do this for a few minutes, it smooths out the surface of the felt and makes it look nice and velvety. How do I know when my eyeball is finished? Well, the surface of the outside looks nice and smooth, and when I pinch it, it feels dense. The dangling optic nerves give this eyeball a freaky look to it. I'm going to make them separately on my blue foam pad and then attach them to the eyeball. I pull off a piece about the size of my finger and lay it on my blue foam pad. Then I use the felting needle to stab into the fiber directly down into the blue foam. Before too long, you'll notice it starts to stick to the blue foam, so I need to peel it off, and then I like to roll it in my fingertips a little bit to get the fibers to cling together. I'll continue to felt it by stabbing it a few times into the blue foam and then peeling it off and turning it over until it starts to clump together. Your optic nerves are finished when you like the look of them. They don't have to be as dense as the eyeball. I like to keep mine looking a little bit fluffy. I'm attaching my optic nerve to the back of the eyeball. I like to use the purple felting needle for this. Because it's a little bit more coarse, it works great for attaching two pieces together. Getting the optic nerve to attach is pretty intuitive. You can see I just stab through the red and into the white of the back of the eyeball. Now, I made several optic nerves even though this isn't strictly anatomically correct. I think it just makes the eyeballs look more creepy. You can add as many as you want. I want the optic nerves to look like they're really attached to the eyeball, not like they're just stuck onto the back. So I'm going to achieve that by adding a little bit of fluffy pinky red wool. I'm just using a really thin layer because I want it to look kind of wispy on the white. I don't want it to be really solid red. I want to see a little bit of the white eyeball coming through. I just do one little section at a time, so it'll probably take me 6 or so little pieces of red fiber to get all the way around the back of the eyeball and make those optic nerves really look like they're a part of the whole piece of anatomy. Here's what I ended up with. You can see that the pinky red fiber covers about half of the eyeball on the backside. Now that you're warmed up with felting, we're going to head down to the detail zone. The blood vessels on the back of the eyeball is what makes the eye look bloodshot. I'll achieve this by felting on thin little red lines. Let me show you how. With my red fiber, I pull off a thin little tiny strip. Then I take that little strip and roll it up in my fingertips. I want the fibers to kind of cling together. I lay my strip onto my eyeball and then start to felt it on from the back of the eyeball to the front. I'm using my silver needle here. The finer needle makes it easier to control this fine line. Once I get to the end of the line, closer to the front of the eyeball, I like to use scissors to cut it off. Snipping the end helps me get a nice crisp edge between the red and the white. I like to curve the lines in different directions. Sometimes I'll add a little V on the end of the red line so it looks like the blood vessel is forking. Here's some extra credit for you detail nerds out there. What I like to do when I'm making a deluxe eyeball is to take some thin strips of white and felt them in between the nerves that I've already felted on. Now we'll create the iris of the eyeball, which is the part of the eye that is different colors in different people. I'm going to do a green eye. I'm pulling off a small pinch of green fiber. I'll just lay it on the end of my eyeball and felt it right on. I'm trying to do it roughly in a circle shape. I pull off a little bit of black fiber and gently tug it so that it's in a skinny strip. Then I'll lay it on that little edge and just felt it right onto my eye. The climax of felting an eyeball is adding the pupil. I used just a tiny little pinch of black fiber that I wad up in my fingers and then felt right on to the center of the green circle. The last little detail that I want to add is a shine mark. I used just a tiny little pinch of white and felt it right on with the silver felting needle. Here's my finished eyeball. I really went all out on the details to make it look super spooky. I hope you had a great time felting with me. If you have any questions about the process, leave them in the comments and I will try to reply. All the materials I used are listed in the video description. Happy felting!